Good morning, fellow Plexers. Today's video is going to be about updating Plex Server on almost all the operating systems. If I have a tutorial video showing you how to install Plex under a certain OS, it always includes how to update it. Well, I've never made one video showing all my different test servers getting an update. And I have test servers that aren't running because they run on the same hardware. And right now that bench system has CasaOS on top of Ubuntu running with Plex in a Docker container. So this is today's setup. And again, if you're new to my channel, most of my videos are not scripted. I just kind of set something in motion, and if I run into trouble, you get to watch me either struggle or easily solve an issue on the fly. But all issues are solvable. So we're going to first update my older Synology NAS where there's a test server running as a Synology package install. And then we'll update a Docker container on a Synology NAS through Container Manager. And then I'll show you how to do the same thing through Portainer, even though we would have just updated the Plex server. And then I have a Docker container of Plex running on this Ubuntu 24.04 install, which is just another update through Portainer. Then we'll update Unraid with Plex as a Docker container. That's how I normally run my Plex server. My real Plex server runs under Unraid with media pointing back to my newer Synology NAS, or pointing back to media on my newer Synology NAS. And I have a test Unraid server running too. And then from the upstairs computer, we'll update Plex running under CasaOS, which is running on top of Ubuntu 24.04. And you see another typo there. Then I'll reset that system, change the SSD drives, plug in the data drives, and I'll boot up ZimaOS, which is the same interface as CasaOS, except it runs under its own Linux operating system. So you install ZimaOS as the operating system. CasaOS runs on top of Ubuntu or Debian. Then we'll reset that system up for Windows 11, and then I'm not sure, I may still have another SSD that has a plain Jane Ubuntu 24.04 with Plex as a snap package, and we'll update that. If not, I'll simulate that on this PC along with a .deb install simulated update. So that's the setup. Pretty ambitious. And let's bring in the Plex web app. Now this is just app.plex.tv. It's not a direct IP login. And you'll see most of these servers running. So right now, we'll do the Walker 63 DS1019 package install. And you see there's an update available. And all the servers that are running you see here also. So that's going to require Synology DSM. So I'll go into Package Center, and this is where my first Plex server ran, just like this. When I moved to the DS1520 Plus, I switched to Docker, and then I moved that container to Unraid later on, with my media still on the newer NAS. So the first thing we have to do is go back to DSM. Go back to the Plex web. So we want to click Please Install Manually. And that's going to download the right SPK file for this Synology NAS. We don't have to decide what to do. It just downloads it. It's going into my download directory. So now we go back to DSM, and I can click the little down arrow next to open and stop the server. So now that it's stopped, I'll click the manual install option. I'll browse to that file, click it, select it, choose next, agree to the third-party package, click done. And that server will restart. Now this always pops up from a new install to a update, and this tells you how to share your shared media folders with this Plex install. But if you're running it this way, you've already done that. All right, so we'll click run. We'll get DSM out of the way, and we'll refresh the web browser. And that's now up to date. And I forgot from my list, I have a new Ugreen NAS I'll also show. And I'll pop this under here. So anything with Docker can be updated with Portainer if you've got the Portainer Docker container installed. So I'll just quickly show this. We'll show updating through the UGOS operating system with that. All right, so what's next? We're going to update Plex running on my other Synology NAS as a Docker container through the Synology interface. So let me bring that on screen first, and then we'll get DSM. So this needs an update too. Just bringing that off screen for a minute. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Last backup completed. So if I go into Container Manager, and then look right here, it says 2 image updates are available. Let's look at details. Well, there's an update available for Portainer, and there's an update available for this LiDAR image that's not running. I haven't figured this fix out yet. And it doesn't show an update in Container Manager for Plex Server. Well, the update was yesterday. You may have to wait longer for the update to show up in Container Manager. And then it's as simple as clicking the update available. I'll do it for this LiDAR image and just click update. And you just wait for the container to restart after updating. Seeing that we don't have the update marked as available in Container Manager, let's just skip to the Portainer update for it. Because I don't honestly know how to manually force this into an update. So let's just skip that whole idea. Let's go to Portainer. I have many Portainer installs for the different Docker containers. So this is the main interface. And if you want to get Portainer set up on a Synology NAS, you can follow the Marius Hosting website instructions. Just know that if you follow his fabulous instructions for Portainer and Plex, talk to me first before you follow his path statement. His path for Plex Server for the media isn't the most intuitive, and I can walk you through that. So we're going to click on the Docker icon there, and I will go to containers, and you see my list of containers running on the Synology NAS. Now, Plex, my real Plex server has been moved to Unraid, but this is just a test server. So I'll click into the hyperlink for Plex. I'll stop it. If we go back to the web app, I was notified that it stopped through email, and we see that the service is stopped, and we're notified of that in the web app. So back in Portainer, now that it's stopped, I'll click Recreate, slide Repull Image, and then click Recreate. Portainer is wonderful for Docker containers. And this is also how you create the Plex container in the first place. You don't create it in DSM. You could create it in DSM through a scheduled task and get hardware acceleration going, but it's just easier to create it through a stack in Portainer. You can use my stack. You just put your own numbers here, put your own time zone, and you point to your own media. Everything else is pretty much standard. All right, so the container is running, it's starting. Takes a second for it to start up. Looks like we've already have access to it. And we're running the latest version. So if we look over here, we see we've got this one updated, and we have this one updated. All right, so let's get on a Portainer. And what's next on the list? Let's do the Ugreen NAS next. And I don't see that running on my list here, but I may have shut down that container and not remembered it. All right, let's sign in off screen. Here's the Ugreen OS. Let me go to Docker container. All right, Plex is running, it says. Maybe it's just bashful. Well, let's find that stubborn server. I think it's 80. All right, CasaOS. All right, give me a second. I am at a loss. Well, no, actually stick with me. Let's shut this down. Let's go to Portainer for the Ugreen NAS. Sign in off screen on my second monitor. We'll click the whale icon. We'll go to container, and we see that Plex exited. So let's click into it, and let's just start it. Plex is running again. Let's refresh that direct IP address. There's the Ugreen. I don't know why I didn't see it. And the Ugreen is marked as updated already. And I know that number is the update. Well, I don't know if Ugreen, for some reason, auto updates. But if you were going to update the Ugreen NAS, you simply get into your interface, click the Docker applet, click the Container tab, click the three dots next to the running server, and you can update it like this. Or you can go into Portainer, because you're only getting Plex installed on a Ugreen NAS via Portainer. and you would update it the same way as we did the Synology server. Container, Plex, stop it. When it stops, recreate, slide the repull image. Let's go through it. Container stopped, recreate, slide that, click recreate, and then it's back up. So I'm only a month in with this test server on the Ugreen NAS. I'll have to watch to see if it auto updates by itself next time, because if it does, that's a neat trick that I'll have to figure out how it's doing it. All right, next on our list. All right, this Ubuntu install. Okay, so it's this server right here, and there's really no interface besides Portainer again for this. So if I go to Portainer and I look for the one for this system, I'm going to continue to cite, but I'm not going to show my username and password. All right, so again, it's the same thing, the whale icon, the container, and you can see the IP address, local IP address of this Ubuntu install right there. Click into Plex, stop the container. Now this desktop is powered by a 12th gen i9, and I have 32 gigs of RAM in this system. So this is probably the fastest instance of Portainer with all the ones I'll do. Container is open. And if we go back to Plex Server, you often get that limited connection warning when a server restarts. It's only temporary. So we're up to date. So now we have the CasaOS one left and the Unraid. So let's do Unraid next. And I'll do my test version of Unraid. All right, so from the Unraid interface, you click into the Docker tab. And it does say up to date, but I'm going to check for updates. And now you see it says update ready and apply update, or I could click update all. I'll click this update. Yes, I'm sure. You see what's going on in the background with this pop-up? Now I love Unraid for my ability to move Plex off from my Synology NAS to a better iGPU. And let's see, no one's streaming on my regular server. So this is done, and while no one's streaming on my regular server, I will update Plex here too, and this time I will check for updates on all the containers. And only Plex needs the update, so I'll apply the update here. So this Unraid install has no media of its own, no rusty storage like my test one does. And the Docker container through this unassigned devices plugin points back to this shared folder on my Synology NAS. So all my media and my trash guides installs are on that Synology NAS. Plex and Channels DVR run on this, and I have a few other containers to play with. I move Plex channels DVR and Tautuli from my Synology NAS, and the rest are just things I'm playing around with. Alright, so we've got, let's refresh this. Alright, this still says an update. Let's check back in with Plex. Let's refresh the web app. Okay, so for the test Unraid server, we'll check for updates. We are up to date. And this is something you'll see once in a while in Unraid. If there's a new minor version to the container, it may still say there's an update to do. Doesn't hurt to do, but you won't have a version change. So now this is marked up to date. But sometimes you'll see that there's an update under Unraid, but there's not in the web app. So don't worry about having to update until the web app tells you to. Okay, so I think all we have left before I reset the bench system downstairs is CasaOS. That's opening off screen, and I'll get my username signed into. So you can do this from any system in the house as long as you're local. This is a great headless option for a simple Plex server install with USB media. You see I have the internal storage and the USB storage, and the Plex container is running here. So if I click these three dots, I'll choose check then update. Plex is the latest version. Let's go back to the web app. We'll change to CasaOS. Now it's indirect because it's just been updated. That will go away. Sometimes I found CasaOS to be a little tricky. Let's see if this is correct. I'm going to stop the container this time. Little power symbol. And I'll hit the three dots again, and I'll go into settings. And I don't know why it resets itself. It wants to be on the stable option. If I choose latest and then save, it will update the server. Now if I slide back, we're up to date. So CasaOS it might be a manual update versus the automatic one, but once you get used to it, that's not hard to do. So I will pause this video and I'll get my bench system running. ZimaOS, we'll update that. Then I'll get it running Windows, we'll update that. And then I'll see if I have a plain Jane Ubuntu as a snap package. NVMe still laying around. It's time to buy a couple more NVMe drives for that system, maybe a couple more SATA SSDs, and maybe I'll try some other operating systems too. Be right back. And I'm back in ZimaOS, and I'm actually in an incognito window. If I use my regular browser window, it thinks it's CasaOS and not ZimaOS. And you see how it's different. I just have the one storage option, which is a rated option. And I don't know why it does that, but it's not likely that you'd be running both CasaOS and ZimaOS. So ZimaOS is built upon CasaOS by the ZimaCube people, and it's just got more features. So this is RAID storage for my rusty couple of drives in there. I just have two 1 terabyte drives, a 3.5 and a 2.5 inch drive joined together, and then the ZimaOS is installed on the NVMe drive. Now, ZimaOS isn't something that you can use to easily get the operating system on a rated pair of SSDs. That's something for Unraid or Proxmox or TrueNAS. But this is a nice way to get RAID for your storage, for a standalone headless PC. And you can always manually back up your Plex container if you want to. So let's go back to the web app. And CasaOS is not available. Let's see if we have Zima right here. So Zima needs an update. So this should be the same as CasaOS. Let's hit the three dots and let's see if check and then update works here, or if we'll have to manually update Plex. All right, Plex is the latest version. Let's see if the web app thinks so. Okay, so that obviously worked in ZimaOS where it didn't in CasaOS. So if you did have to update this manually, the three dots here, you'd stop the container. And all of my Docker containers, I should have mentioned this earlier, they're all the Linux-server image. All right, so it's grayed out, so it's no longer running. So let's hit the three dots, go into settings, and the latest tag seems to stick here where it's not sticking for me in CasaOS. If I save this, it's just going to repull the image again and start it back up. So again, a freshly updated server, if you get back to the web app quickly, you'll often see a limited connection. It doesn't last long as the server starts up. Okay, so now back to our list. Everything that's running is updated. I will now go shut the bench system down and get Windows going, and we'll update that remotely from this same PC. And I do not have an install of Ubuntu with a plain Jane Plex server on it as a snap package, but I might create one to finish out this video. Be back again. And I'm back again after starting the Windows server by installing its SSD. So let's see if my memory serves me correctly. Let's refresh this web browser. And let's not do this. Let's go to the app.plex.tv instead of a direct IP address login. Let's refresh this and see if we see the Windows server. Okay, there it is, Windows 11, and I marked it June 2025 to remember when it was installed. And let's see, can I go? Okay, so right from the activity window, I can click on the server for server update available and download now. Now, I am not on that PC. I'm on my Ubuntu desktop, updating this Windows 11 install remotely, which is, it's a nice feature actually. But I've updated everything remotely today also, so this is just kind of built into the web interface for a Windows server of the Plex web app. We'll click install now, continue. And of course you can't access this while it's installing. So let's look at the time. It's 12:04. I'm just going to pause the video and I'll come back in a few minutes when the server's available, or I'll be troubleshooting and taking a little bit longer if I'm not back shortly. Alright, it was a longer pause than I thought because I've been answering questions on Messenger with another Plexaholics member. So, you see the Windows server has got the green lock, and if I go into General, you see it's updated. So, I am going to do a fresh install of Ubuntu 24.04 and get a little test server going on the same hardware in the basement for a snap package install. I could not find my SSD drive for that previous install, and I'd like to just have one in the rotation for future videos. And I do not have remote access gained on this Windows server. I just haven't done that yet, but I already have a port forwarded for that device on my router, so it's just a matter of applying the settings. But I'm shutting this down to do the snap package of Ubuntu next. So there'll be one more segment. And I'm back after a long delay. So the goal was to install Ubuntu fresh on my bed system on a spare SSD. And after I got Ubuntu all installed, the dope moment happened. The dope slap, let's say. I gave myself one. How was I going to install an older version of Plex as a snap when Ubuntu Snap Store only had the most current version that came out yesterday? So I came back up to this PC after a long break of doing other things, and I remembered that I have a snap install on this system, so I was just going to stop the Docker container install and start the snap version and update it. And then I hit a brick wall a second time because I updated this PC last night with the App Center in Ubuntu. So if I go to Manage, I ran all the updates. And even though the Plex Media Server as a snap package had been stopped, well, the program still got updated. So when I restarted it, I'm back to square one. This Ubuntu Snap install is fully updated. So to update this type of install, it's not that hard. You just check for updates in the App Center, and you can do all your updates, or you find the Plex Media Server and click that one to update it all by itself. Very basic stuff. Almost as easy as a Windows one is to update. You just do it through the Package Center. So the last thing I was going to show you was kind of virtualize how to update Plex under Ubuntu or any version of Linux when it's running as a default install. So let's go to Plex's downloads. So if you're on your Linux system that's your Plex server, it's going to know you're looking for Plex Media Server for Linux. So you choose a distribution, and Plex maintains an install for different versions of Fedora or different versions of Ubuntu or Debian, or Ubuntu or Debian based distros, or Fedora or CentOS based distros. So for a normal system, it would be the Ubuntu 16.04 Debian 8 Plus Intel AMD 64-bit. So that would include distros like Linux Mint, Zorin OS, Pop OS that I use a lot. What else? Trying to think. Some other popular ones. Elementary OS, those sorts of things. You download this. So let's download this file. It's a .deb file. Now there's a couple ways to do it. Let's go back to the Package Center. Let's see what I have installed. I don't know if I have ADI installed. Let's see if I have GDebi. Okay, I do have GDebi, so that's an option. So, go to your files, right-click on the file, and see how I can open with GW package installer. I'll do that first. So you would just reinstall the package if it's already installed. Or I should be able to right click and open with and choose the App Center. And this is new, so I'd install it, so you would upgrade it through the App Center. Very easy stuff. So I appreciate you watching, and that's how you update Plex Server on almost all the operating systems. I didn't pop in my Windows 10 test Plex Server. It's the same as Windows 11, and of course I'm not a Mac guy, so I don't have that hardware to show you how to do it there. And I don't have any test servers with Proxmox or TrueNAS running, so that's left off the table. And I also do not have an Open Media Vault test server running. Maybe that the OMV might be coming in the future. I do think that ZimaOS is probably the better choice in that area. So thanks for watching, and happy Plexing.